So I'm going to show you how to exchange the thermal print head, main board, drive PCB, and power supply. First, we'll start with removing all the plastic covers, starting with the front cover. You'll remove the scrap box. The front cover has 2 screws on the bottom. Remove the cover, pull from the bottom, and then pull out and lift up. Next will be the left and right side covers. 3 screws for each cover, 2 down on the side and 1 on the back. To remove these side covers, from the front edge, pull until you hear it snap, and then lift it up and out. Same for the left side. Top cover, only 1 screw in the back. And then from the back of the printer, lift the cover up. Open the front of the printer and you can remove the head cushion. To remove the thermal print head, you have 2 flat cables and 1 power harness. Go ahead and disconnect the power harness. Then next, remove the black cable retention. To remove the 2 flat cables, there's small locks for each cable. From the side of the locks, they're very delicate, so please be careful and lift up on each side of these locks, and then pull the cable out. If you want, you can pull the cable back and slide it into this black plastic piece here to get the cables out of the way. Now, there's 2 screws that hold the thermal head in place, and they come from behind this head frame. Go ahead and loosen the screws and be sure to make sure the head does not fall. So you can go ahead and hold it in place as you loosen the screws. To remove the head once the screws are loosened, the two metal tabs on each side of the print head, you hold your hand in front to catch it and then push down on each side of these tabs. On the new thermal print head, please take note of the 4-digit resistance value unique to every print head. On a new print head, there's normally a plastic film for the thermal paste. You can go ahead and peel that off. When inserting the print head, you'll see 2 pins sticking out of this heatsink. You want to make sure that you line these holes with these 2 pins. Then before screwing the print head back in place, you just want to check and make sure that the print head is sitting flush and even with the heatsink. Then you must also use a torque driver set to 30 centinewton meters when tightening the print head. If it's too loose or too tight, you can damage the print head. So with your torque driver set, tighten the screws until it clicks. Now you can reconnect your power. Make sure that these locks are open. And then insert your flat cables. And then push the locks down. Then reinstall the cable retention piece. After installing the thermal print head, using RX1 Tools, we need to enter the new 4-digit resistance value that we showed you earlier. Under the menu option, setup of head rink, make sure your printer is powered on, and you can hit get, which will bring up your old head rink. Go ahead and erase these 4 numbers and enter your new head rink. And hit setup to complete. So after you've installed the print head and you've set up the head rink, since we're handling the surface of the print head, you can go ahead and clean it using a lint-free alcohol soaked saturated cloth, such as this lint-free pre-saturated wipe, and wipe evenly across the printing surface to remove any oils or fingerprints that were left behind when installing the print head. Now we'll replace the drive PCB. What we want to do first is remove all of the cabling. Go ahead and remove these 2 flat cables. this plastic. This harness has a small lock on it underneath, so go ahead and press this and remove that one. Now there's 5 screws that hold the driver board in place. One in this corner, one here that could be easily missed, one here, and one right here. So go ahead and remove those 5 screws. After replacing the drive PCB, make sure you take a look at this number written here. This one, for instance, is 0, and we'll have to make an adjustment inside of RX1 Tools. Now on RX1 Tools, under the option menu, there's a selection for driver adjustment. Go ahead and open that. And then there's a drop-down style menu from -10 to +10. And this is where you will write the number written on the driver board. We'll go, which in this case was 0. So we select 0 and then hit Setup. Now we'll install the new drive PCB. Make sure all your wires are out of the way. And then go ahead and put the 5 screws back in. Now go ahead and plug all your cable harnesses back in. The drive PCB has 4 potentiometers or variable resistors that you can adjust 2 paper sensors and 2 ribbon sensors inside the printer. If you replace the board, you must check the sensor values and make the proper adjustments in DS Tools. Now that our new driver board is installed, we have to make the adjustments for heat rank as well as the sensors. We'll start with heat rank, which is the single digit number that's written on the board. Now under option, setup of heat rank, there's a drop down list from -10 to +10. Our particular board that we have installed right now is 0. So we'll select 0 from the drop down menu and hit Setup. Now to adjust our sensors, we'll go under Option, go to Sensor Monitor, and then hit Start. We see this flashing. You know that the sensor monitor is active. We have 4 sensors: paper end, PC mark, then ribbon, C and R for center and right. To check our 2 paper sensors, we're going to insert our roll of paper into the printer. And our first sensor here for paper end, insert the paper into this slot. Now on our sensor monitor, you'll see as I remove the paper and insert the paper, our value changes. Okay. With our paper end sensor, this 5.13 is the without paper value. The tolerance for without paper is 4.5 or more. So we know our value is okay there. I'll go ahead and insert the paper back into the paper path to trigger the paper end sensor, and our tolerance with paper should be 0.7 plus or minus 0.05. So we're within tolerance with our paper end. If we needed to make an adjustment, we can make that adjustment on the driver board by turning the variable resistor. Okay. The next sensor we're going to show is the PC mark sensor, which is located in this black paper guide. So to trigger that sensor, we'll go ahead and feed the paper into the guide and then out of the guide for the without paper value. Sorry. Now with our PC mark sensor, first we'll start without paper. The tolerance should be 0.4 plus or minus 0.05, and our value is 0.41, so we're within tolerance there. Now I'll go ahead and put the paper back into the black paper guide so we can get our with paper value. And that should be 2.9 or more. So we have 3.09 and we're within tolerance. Once again, if you have to make an adjustment, there's the variable resistors that we showed you on the drive board, and you can use a screwdriver to adjust it up or down. Next, we're going to go over adjusting the ribbon sensor values. What we have to do first is remove this side panel from the mechanism unit. There's one screw here. After removing the screw, pull out from the left side of the cover and remove it. Okay. Now we'll insert the ribbon into the printer, and then we need to wind it forward until we get to a clean, unused cyan panel. Then close the printer. Now where we remove the cover, there's a motor down here and a gear that we're going to use to manually rotate the head frame into the down position. Go ahead and turn until you feel resistance right there. Now that we have our ribbon on set to cyan and our head frame in the down position, we're getting our center and right ribbon voltage readings. The center at 5.00 and right at 5.03. The proper tolerance for the ribbon sensor voltages is 5.0 plus or minus 0.05. So we're within tolerance there. Once again, if adjustments need to be made, they'll be made on the driver board by turning the variable resistor. And for further information on making these adjustments, please look at page 66 and 67 of your manual. So on page 66 of your manual, you'll see the PC mark, ribbon C, ribbon R, and paper end for the variable resistors, and that they correspond to the board. PC mark, ribbon center, ribbon right, and paper end. Next is our main PCB. It has 6 flat cables that plug into it, so we'll start by removing those. These 2 for the thermal print head. This one for the RFID. LED PCB. And then these 2 are the bridge connectors for the drive PCB to the main PCB. Next, we're going to remove 4 screws, as well as an additional screw for the USB port. I'll start with the USB port. Now we can remove the main PCB. Now we'll install a new PCB. Move our flat cables out of the way and position the board in place. Now we'll put our 4 main screws back into the board. Now we'll insert our 6 flat cables. Two for the print head. 1 for the RFID board. For our LCD PCB. LED PCB, and then our connectors from the drive board to the main board. On page 65 of your manual, it shows the adjustments that need to be made with the main PCB, starting with sensor voltage. If you replace your main PCB, you'll have to once again open your sensor monitor, hit start, and just like the drive PCB, you'll want to make sure your paper end, PC mark, center ribbon, and right ribbon voltage are within tolerance. Next, you'll have to enter the new head rank. If the board is replaced, the head rank is written to the board and the new one will be default 4000. So you want to look at your thermal print head at the 4-digit resistance value, enter that number in, and then hit setup. There's 3 other settings that we have to look. There's a label in the bottom of the mechanism unit, our driver adjustment, our heat rank number, our print position, and cut position. Next, we're going to do our mechanism adjustment, which is under option menu and mechanism adjustment. We have 2 numbers to enter here, which are print position and cutting position. Once again, those numbers are located on the revision seal inside of the printer. In this case, our print position is -0.4 millimeters, and our cutting position is -0.7 millimeters. Set those 2 numbers up and then hit setup. Our last adjustment is going to be the setup of printer serial number, which is located on the back of the printer. We'll open this menu from option printer serial number, and then here we'll type in our number. In this case, we already have a serial number. So we would type in our serial and then hit setup. Now also under option, there's driver adjustment. So if you replace the main board, we'll go ahead and check the number that's written on the driver board. In this case, our number is 0, and then hit Setup. You'll also want to check the firmware version of the printer, which is under the menu Status and ROM version. Then hit Get. And our firmware is 1.10, which is the latest firmware. And then also under Controlled Data, CWD version check. Hit Get. And 300_0100.cwd is the correct CWD version file. If either the ROM version or CWD version is not correct, then we would need to flash the firmware using our firmware tool. Next, we're going to replace the power supply. We have to remove this back panel. There's 4 screws here, and then 2 screws, one here, and then one for this USB port. Here's our power supply. We have the power harness, and then the harness for the power switch. Go ahead and remove both of those. Now you'll need a long screwdriver to remove 4 screws in each corner. There's 2 access holes for the back screws here. So you use your long screwdriver. And remove the power supply. So now we'll install the new power supply. Go ahead and put it in place. And put our 4 screws back. Now plug our power harness and our power switch. Now that our power supply is in place and everything is connected, go ahead and power the printer on. What we need to check here is the head power voltage. So we need to use a digital multimeter set to DC, and we're going to measure 2 points. We're going to use our positive on one of the top 4 red wires. Below that are 4 white ground wires. Any one of those 4 for our negative. And what we're looking for on our meter is 35 volts with the tolerance of plus or minus 0.05. And we're within tolerance. If you need to make an adjustment, there's an orange variable resistor right here. And you can use a screwdriver to adjust it to change the voltage up or down.